Hi, everyone. What a performance. What a day for the Devils in Sydney, taking down a powerhouse club, the mighty Sydney Swans, on their home deck. How good. And the Devils did it in style with a stunning 9-goal third quarter. It's the Devils' fourth win over an AFL club this season, and probably the most important. And it jumps them back up the ladder to sixth position and puts them one step closer to playing finals in their first ever season in the VFL. How good would that be? Welcome back to Devils Chat. I'm in a hotel room in Sydney today, not in my usual cosy studio, as you can probably see from these surrounds here. I went to the Devils Swans game yesterday in Sydney at the Tramway Oval, and I'm so glad I made the trip for this one because, as we just mentioned, the Devils pulled off an outstanding win where the final score in the game was the Sydney Swans, 12 goals, 14, 86, were outclassed and went down to the Tasmania Devils, 17 goals, 14, 116. By 30 points. It was great to see lots of Tassie supporters at the game. There were lots of Tassie scarves and hats and Guernseys in the crowd. I'd say there were probably 400 people there in total, and out of those 400, at least 300 were Devils fans. The Sydney-based Tasmanians came out to show their support for the Devils, and it was great to see that. So let's talk about the game itself. The Devils actually started this game very well. They looked switched on and none of the slow starts which has plagued them in recent weeks. Sydney did kick the first goal of the match, but after that the Devils kicked 4 goals in a row and they held a 15-point lead at quarter time. That's the first time the Devils have been in front at quarter time in the last 6 matches. And the Devils, they still dominated in the second quarter. They dominated possession and they seemed to do everything right except convert on the scoreboard. They kicked 1 goal 6 in the second quarter, while Sydney kicked 3 goals to bring the margin back to 5 points at half time. It was in the third quarter when the Devils started to get the reward for their dominance and they lit up the Tramway Oval. Hugh Dixon and Jed Hagan started it off with a touch of class.
Wicks tried to get a handball away. Dixon now fends away from Andrew and goes short. That was a touch of class from Hugh Dixon. Will run around and snap and convert for his third.
Then it was the Harry Brereton show.
Had to look for Dixon. In the end, Cox Goodyear marked. Goes towards goal. Oh, don't tell me. On the volley, Harry Brereton with a miracle play.
From 55. It's marked on the line. Brereton plays on quickly. The Devils have got another.
Inside, deep inside 50, go Tassie. And waiting there was Brereton, changes direction and Brereton snaps it through.
No pain. Brereton! Big fly!
How good is this guy going to be in only his second game for the Devils? And he's doing stuff like that. Jai Menzies and Geordie Payne then kicked lovely goals. And the Devils were running absolutely rampant all over the Swans.
Oh, Melican got a ride. Andrew out the back. Menzies at the front spot. And Menzies rolls it through. Does take a bounce before hitting the boundary. It fell nicely for Payne. And Payne has it working back.
Lovely goal, that one from Geordie Payne. The Devils kicked 9 goals in a blazing third quarter blitz, and they kept Sydney scoreless. That's right, not a solitary Sydney score in the third quarter. The Devils were in total control, and they led by a whopping 65 points at three-quarter time. Then, in the last quarter, the Devils took the foot off the pedal, and they let Sydney kick some really soft goals. I'm sure the Sydney players took a roasting from their coach at three-quarter time, and they actually had a real crack in the last quarter. But, the game was done. Sydney did kick 8 goals, but it seemed like junk time goals to me. The Devils really should have pushed on in the last quarter from their 65-point lead, and they should have buried the Swans. But a 5-goal win in Sydney, that's a fine effort, and we'll take that any time. I thought Harry Brereton was amazing. He's got so much upside, that guy. Watch out for him in the next few games and next year. It was great to have Jai Menzies back. He played mainly up forward yesterday. I can't remember seeing him in the midfield at all. He's such a dangerous small forward. And Jed Hagen was back in the goals again. With Hagen and Menzies up forward, it's such a potent forward line for the Devils when they're both on fire. And Robbie Fox, what a game from him. Back in Sydney, where he played 9 years for the Swans. He was fiery and angry, and he did give away a few free kicks and a 50-metre penalty right in front of goal, but he was awesome, and he features in our votes for this week. I gave 5 votes to Robbie Fox. Another great game from the captain. He led from the front with 32 possessions, the highest possession getter on the ground for both teams. 10 contested possessions and 9 intercepts. 4 votes I gave to Jed Hagen. Kicked 5 goals and was very lively up forward. He also had 17 possessions to go with those 5 goals. 3 votes to Jai Menzies. 4 goals for Menzies on his return from injury, plus 15 possessions. He was a great target all day for the Devils. 2 votes to Zach Adams for his 22 possessions and 12 marks, most marks by anyone on the ground, and a goal. 1 vote to Bailey Bogue, 27 possessions and 10 clearances. Another great game from Bailey Bogue. He's been on fire in the last few weeks. Let me know what you think of those votes, because there were so many good Devils players on the day, and plenty of other players could have been in the votes yesterday. Harry Elmer, Geordie Payne, Lockie Hay, they were all great. And Harry Brereton, wow, huge potential there with him. And to the voting leaderboard, after round 19, Jai Menzies extends his lead at the top. He can't be caught now on 43 votes, with only 2 games left. And Jed Hagen moves into equal second spot with Hugh Dixon. Both are on 22 votes. Callum Mitchell, he didn't play this week. He's still on 19 votes. And Zach Adams moves into the top 5 on 16 votes. And for the goal kicking this week in Sydney, after round 19, here's the goal kicking leaderboard for the Devils. Jed Hagen takes the lead with his 5 goals this week. He moves on to 35 goals and opens up a 5-goal gap to Hugh Dixon. Hugh Dixon had a quiet day in front of goal. Plenty of shots and marks, but no goals for Hugh this week. He stays on 30. Jai Menzies kicked 4 goals on his return and he moves to 26. Sam Siggins didn't play this week. He stays on 16. While Lockie Hay moves into the top 5 with 14 goals. So with 2 games left, it's a race between Jed Hagen and Hugh Dixon for the club's goal kicking award. Okay, on the injury front this week, Jai Menzies seemed to get through the game okay, which is great news. And there didn't appear to be any other injuries in the game, which is also really good news for the Devils going forward. And looking ahead to next week, the Devils have another big game next week. It's against Werribee at North Hobart Oval. If the Devils want to play finals, they need to win next week or the week after. It won't be easy next week though. Werribee is sitting second on the ladder. They've only lost 3 games all year, but the Devils owe them big time. Werribee got away with a draw against the Devils back in round 7, when the Devils had big chances to win it in the dying stages of that game. I'll be doing a preview of that game later in the week, so make sure you keep a lookout for that. If you enjoyed today's match review, click the video on your screen up here now for our latest Tasmania Devils news. And if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. You can subscribe by clicking the Devils Chat logo up here. See you soon and go Devils.